Welcome back to Gran Turismo Rewind, my series where I take you 100% of the way through every single Gran Turismo entry, including some bonus videos about the best cars and easy ways to make money in every single entry of this series. We're currently at Gran Turismo 1, the original, all the way back on the PlayStation 1. Get ready for episode 4, where we'll be finally starting our first races in this entry of the series. During the first 3 episodes of this series, I was trying to tackle all of the gold medals for the license tests in GT1, and along the way we did manage to do every single one of them gold, bagging ourselves 3 excellent cars, which I'm pretty sure will show up later on in the playthrough. Without further ado though, let's go ahead and start our first races in Gran Turismo 1. We're going to be starting off strong with the Sunday Cup. This is pretty much the entry series for almost every single Gran Turismo title, and well, we need to go ahead and find ourselves a nice little ride to get started with our career. So here we are at the home screen. Now the car that I'm aiming to pick needs to be something that can take part in both the Sunday Cup as a good starter car that can win us races, as well as a car that is going to be relatively inexpensive to also take part in the Lightweight Cup a little further down the line. So I'm going to typically look around Honda, Toyota, maybe even Mitsubishi just to see what's on offer, and within that very strict 10,000 credit price range. So of course what I'm aiming to do is get a car that can do multiple championships. Again, we can add modifications if we want to. Now the most obvious pick would have been the Honda Civic that can take part in plenty of events throughout Gran Turismo 1. Unfortunately, just a bit out of my price range. Now my always go-to car previously in Gran Turismo 1 was the Mirages. You can pick these up for relatively cheap, decent 172 brake horsepower, but again that would be too obvious and something that I've always done. So that leaves me with 2 manufacturers left really that have, typically cheap cars in GT1. So there was Nissan, so I went ahead and checked out if any of the Silvias were available on the cheap. However, a lot of these Nissan Silvias I believe can be picked up as a reward car for some of the events. So if I do really want one, in all honesty, I'm probably best just waiting to get one as a reward. So that only left me with Toyota. Now there is the Levins and the Trinos. These are very good picks, and I believe they are the cheapest cars in game. So out of that 10,000 credits, we'll have a few left to put some modifications on if we do need to. And well, the Levin and Trino can be used for a bunch of events. This might just be some of the best value for money in terms of the sheer amount of events we can actually get this car into, standard or modified. So we're gonna go for the Levin. This car really is an absolute gem and a bargain. It leaves plenty of room to put extra credits into modifications if we do need to. Next up though, we're going to have a look at the events on offer in Gran Turismo 1. The first thing that actually caught my eye, and something I'd completely forgotten about since it's probably been about, I'd probably say 5 to 10 years since I've played this entry in its entirety. Honestly, it's just the sheer amount of events. There's a massive lack of them in comparison to later entries. I feel like Gran Turismo 2 onwards, they just started cramming an absolute mammoth amount of events into these games, whether it was on the PS1 or PS2. But for Gran Turismo 1, there is a lot less. However, for a first entry in a franchise, I really can't complain. There's still a good amount here to do. So let's get started with the Sunday Cup, our first races in Gran Turismo. So here we are at the ever iconic Autumn Ring Mini. This is of course the very tiny layout of Autumn Ring. It's always pretty much a go-to starter track for the Gran Turismo series, so let's get underway with qualifying. Now I'm not expecting to do too well here. In fact, there's a weird thing in Gran Turismo 1 when it comes to qualifying, that the AI are lightning fast. However, once it comes to race pace, they're almost nowhere near that. It's pretty damn bizarre. So whilst this is certainly a fairly decent starter track, there is a few parts that can catch you out. So I'm just aiming for a clean lap, even if it isn't the fastest that we can go. It's been a good few years since I've been here, so let's try and get this one tackled and done with. So as you can see, we're going to head into the final corner now and come up across the line already. So let's go ahead and see where we rank. This is only going to be a short qualifying and a very short race to begin with, so I'm not expecting too much. Now in terms of the times, we do manage to put it in P4, so that's a couple of positions made up. However, we're still 1.2 seconds a lap off the pace. So we're going to start in P4 for this one. We're just behind the Honda Civic, as well as one of the Demios, and of course the MR2, which is probably going to be our biggest problem for this entire Sunday Cup series. That car, compared to everything else on grid, is seriously quick. And we're going to make some moves straight away at turn 1, getting ourselves into P2 before diving up the inside of the MR2 and taking away P1. Now the problem is that MR2 is going to be pretty quick round here. However, it's also going to struggle to put the power down, so we do need to take advantage of that and just stay as clean as possible. Once we get to that final stretch, I can guarantee that MR2 is going to be pushing right up behind us, trying to take the lead. So here we go, let's finish up lap 1 and get ourselves into the final lap of the race. Only a few more corners to go. We've got this tricky sort of right, right bus stop section. We've just got to survive through there. It can catch you out, and the MR2 is catching fairly quickly. Now again, we're going to try and sprint up across the line, and there we go. We do just about manage to hold on to that lead in the end, taking it nice and early and then defending for our lives. A very quick event this, only a minute and a half to complete and 7/10 in front of the MR2. However, that does give us 9 points on the board and a 3-point advantage going into what is next, probably the most difficult of the events that we're going to face. So round 1 at Autumn Ring Mini, not too bad overall, taking a nice early lead and then managing to just hang on in those later stages. That pesky little MR2 is probably going to be a thorn in our side when it comes to trying to win this event in this tiny little plucky Levin. So on to qualifying once again, and it's at the track where I feel we're going to have the most issues. This is high speed ring, and that is something we're really lacking. As you can see, we're off to a start, but it's a very slow one. I have a feeling that MR2 is going to be fairly dominant here, and especially if the AI is just constantly running in the slipstream, then they're going to manage to bunch up and get on the back of us very quickly. I'm not expecting much from this one. We come into the midsection. Now this is probably the most complex part of the entire track, and where we realistically can get most of the time made up. The AI very inconsistent and slow through the tighter sections and more technical parts of really any track. Then we're going to head out of the final banked corner and head up across the line to finish off the qualifying lap. A little bit longer this time now, almost double the length of Autumn Ring Mini in terms of time, and we cross the line with a 1 minute 19.261. Now where's that going to rank us? Well, dead last. I knew it was going to be bad, I just didn't expect it to be almost 5 seconds off the pace of that leading MR2. However, as mentioned, there is a problem in Gran Turismo 1 where the AI is ridiculous in qualifying, but then very slow when it comes to actual race pace. Now we do manage to make a decent start. The Sylvia just kind of sitting still there. We also have one of the Hondas, I believe that is, or is it a Toyota? We are going to manage to make a move on that before getting up behind the likes of the Civic, the Demio, and of course the MR2. Now we are hoping for a slipstream here. Pretty much all of these cars, perhaps besides the Demio, can absolutely outrun us with pace. We do manage to barge our way past the Civic, get behind the MR2 and give him a little nudge just to get him a little bit unstable and allow us to manage to take the lead. Now again, it's this section there in the middle where we can make up most of our time, and that's exactly what we're going to do before getting back on the main straight, and the MR2 and the rest of the pack certainly closing upon us. As you can see, we're hitting 122 miles per hour. The rest of them, though, probably a lot closer to 125 to 126, and they are straight behind us at that point. Now, we don't want to lose the lead. We do manage to hold on into this technical part. That point, we are going to, again, just stretch out that lead before managing to just hold on at the end. The AI not getting to us before the finish line, and we do manage to take a win. At this point, I'm fairly confident that this championship is ours. As you can see, 6/10 ahead. That MR2 much quicker than the rest of the field. That does give us another 9 points, giving us a total of 18 with the MR2 on 12. As long as we get a fairly decent result in the final round, we should be able to take the win here. So High Speed Ring, our first visit here, and definitely a bit of an uncomfortable one. The Levin just lacking that top end, and with that MR2 there really taking advantage of its much higher top speed than anything else on that grid. So it's time to tackle our final qualifying for the Sunday Cup. Of course, this one is at Grand Valley Speedway. This is going to be the shorter layout, so again, whilst it is a nice little starter track, it is a very technical track and probably one of the most complex in terms of the types of corners we see in the entirety of Gran Turismo 1. The first corner, especially in the faster cars, is really notorious for spinning you out. Thankfully though, we're in something rather quite low powered, so we do make it through turn 1 quite easily. We'll then have the technical section just before the tunnel. Again, not too bad through there, but we are certainly lacking in terms of overall pace before finishing up on that huge long straight where once again we're guaranteed to lose a bunch of time. So across the line and we finish our final qualifying session. Let's see where this puts us in line for our final race. As you can see, the MR2 once again takes pole, and it's a very lackluster performance for us. 3.1 seconds off of the pace of that MR2. Again, this one could prove to be tricky. So we're starting at the back once again for Grand Valley East. Now the only real issue we need to get in mind is the fact that we probably need about a P4 to guarantee a win in the championship. The MR2 is pretty much guaranteed a win here. We know it's going to be quick. We know that once it hits that final back stretch, it's going to be able to gap everything in this grid. So again, we just need to be aware of that, but we do manage to get a very good start. As you can see, the AI incredibly inconsistent. The Demio there braking way before turn 1 when it didn't really need to. We eventually do manage to get it down the inside of the MR2. At that point, we're going to start blocking maneuvers and just hope for the best. Into the tunnel, and we do manage to maintain that lead. The MR2 just slightly dropping back there. Again, in the technical sections, we can make up time even if our car is much slower. Unfortunately though, the final stretch at Grand Valley, whichever layout you're on, is absolutely a behemoth of a straight. And this is where the MR2 is really going to shine, as you can see, catching us at relative pace. So we move out the way of the slip, we get ready for turn 1, and we're just going to throw it in and hope for the best. If we survive here, we've got that downhill run, which hopefully we can make use of, and just start pushing ourselves all the way to the end. Final sector, again quite tight and technical, so again we can make up a ton of time there, just throwing the Levin through and hoping for the best, drifting almost everywhere. But that MR2 is much closer at this point, and when we do get on the straight, thankfully the finish line is right at the midpoint. The MR2 not managing to get all that power down and getting the overtake done. So we do hold off for another first place finish, 7 tenths in front of the MR2, and well, that is going to confirm our championship win, taking maximum points. 27 compared to the 18 of the MR2. We did finally do it. So there we go. Job done, and our first cup in the bag, which is of course the Sunday Cup of the starter races of Gran Turismo 1. So whilst we're off to a fairly strong start at Autumn Ring Mini, we did thankfully manage to hold on at both High Speed Ring and Grand Valley East. Only just though, that pesky MR2 certainly giving us a run for the money, but we did manage to take maximum reward from all of these events. So as you can see, we took the first place in the final race. Let's have a look at what we're going to get paid just for that race. 3,000 credits. That takes our total to 12,180. However, if you remember Gran Turismo 1, we are going to get a bonus for taking that first place cup. So as you can see, championship bonus, 15,000 credits on top, giving us a total of 27,180 credits. Not too bad at all. So we do get the Series Championship Cup. I really am buzzing with this one. It's great to see these little intros and all the bonuses you get, as well as a brand new car in the garage. So let's go ahead and have a look what we got awarded. We got given the pretty legendary Demio A-Spec. I absolutely love this car. Yes, it's not really the most useful in game. Yes, it is even slower than the Levin that we have, but it looks absolutely awesome. Plus, it has those pretty iconic 3-spoke wheels. So there we go. Job done. Our first reward car in the bag. Our first cup in the bag. And that is going to end episode 4 after our first full races in Gran Turismo 1. So there we go, episode 4 of our Gran Turismo 1 GT Rewind playthrough. Thank you so much for joining me. A huge thank you to all of my channel members. If you do want to join, it does massively help me out between uploads and does enable me to make bigger content like this, as well as go into different racing content as well. A massive thank you to all of you guys watching at home. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back with episode 5 next week. Thank you so much. Take care. Peace.